This is it. About to commence.
Welcome to Jesulin's second challenger of the day. He is up against Paul. Paul does not like that Jesulin is a threat to his lead, I take it. He's going to try and defend his lead, try and dethrone Jesulin, and stop him from accumulating too many challengers defeated. We are going to see Jesulin continuing his non-meta streak, playing as Overcommando West, even on Simoski Summer, where I think it is undeniably true that Oster performs better on this map, because they have more mobile options, they have more anti-building options, they have more medium range options. The list goes on. And they're just generally more viable. They have better commanders and such, so I'm very curious to see if Jesulin will be able to make Overcommando West work against Paul. He's been gunning for Coco Jumbo hard today, and if he can continue his non-meta play in this series, he might just take that for sure. Curious to see what he's going to do. So far, it looks like a pretty standard game with a Kuba Wagon plus Sturm Pyos going straight for the cutoff. Paul is going to have to react to that. He's gone with 2 combat engineers. Second one hitting the field a little on the early side may weaken him a little bit against the Kuba Wagon here. If Jesulin can successfully push both of these conscript squads back into the base, might be looking at a rough opening for Paul, who has sent, of course, 1 combat engineering squad south. Sturm Pioneers setting up an ambush right here on the shrubs. Easily pushed that squad back. Nicely played. He takes a light burst of damage from this conscript squad and cover from range, bringing, I think, this model down to about half health. Kuba Wagon, however, will suppress that squad and push them back across the cutoff, so Jesulin has a pretty strong early map control, and combat engineers in the south will probably get pushed away second by this Volksgrenadier squad, which is on its way. Tier 1, of course, is in production right here, and Jesulin, very slow to take territory with this strategy, does not have the 30 munitions he needs for a shoe mine, whereas Paul does have the resources he needs for a scout car as soon as he gets the manpower together right now. And I'm assuming he's going to queue that up. There it is, in production, to help him break this extremely aggressive containment that Jesulin is trying to execute. And Volksgrenadiers did not go south to push away the combat engineers. Rather than that, they are trying to connect this strategic point to try and bolster Jesulin's economy a little bit. He needs to try and get that shoe mine down before the M3 arrives. I think, sensing that he's not going to be able to, he is going to queue up the Raketenwerfer instead to try and preemptively shut down this M3's push. Paul very slow to take territory here as he awaits the M3's arrival. He has got 2 squads, simply 3 actually, sitting in his base. But he will continue his advance with these combat engineers, wiring off this approach, wiring off this approach. The Kuba Wagon, of course, can crush barbed wire. Finally, there's the shoe mine, by the way. Interesting placement. I think he intends to try and bait M3 up around this corner, or not at all. I think hearing the M3 coming, he's completely pulling back to safety. Very interesting maneuvers here by Jesulin. Moves his Kuba Wagon to push away the combat engineers right there, and the M3 is circling very wide north. The mine is now perfectly placed between the scout car and the Kuba Wagon, but it's not making any attempt to do anything about that. It's instead heading straight for the north fuel point, where he will try and shut down Jesulin's economy. Flamethrower is not in production here in the car. Paul doesn't even have the munitions for that, in fact, yet. His munitions income has been so low, he's only just now able to afford one. So he just moves to do map harassment up here with the M3 rather than trying to gun down squads on retreat until he can afford that flamethrower. Kuba Wagon is going to attempt to push some squads back into the base here in the middle, probably for 2 reasons. 1, to try and pull that scout car back onto this mine, and 2, because he knows the scout car is in that area, he's safe to engage around here. His Raketenwerfer is probably going to be here very soon as well. And he's gone tier 2. He's going to go with aggressive tier 2 placement against Paul's tank hunters, apparently. Paul did not field guard mode of this game. His Kuba Wagon's in a very dangerous situation, and Jesulin is not chasing it either, I think. Or Paul's not chasing it. I think Paul probably has the general idea that there might be a mine somewhere and needs to be very careful with his maneuvers. This is kind of why I thought this mine placement was a little off, though, and the M3 can still go like into the central village right here. But it's not going to. No overly aggressive maneuvers by Paul's M3. He's going to be very careful here. I wonder if he's going to go Minesweeper. He's going to spend that first 60 munitions on a flamethrower, but you can just tell from the way he's using his M3 that he's very cautious about the threat of mines. Looks like the Kubelwagen's going to get a little more bold here and try and really nuance that M3's movements a little bit. Really try and get it to go over that mine. But even without the M3 pushed or destroyed, it looks like Jesulin is winning the engagement for the central village. He now has this reinforced point set up right there, and he will win this flank engagement against already wounded conscripts, I think. It looks like he's going to win that. It's kind of close. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's won that. The M3, however, is on its way to turn that engagement, and again, no flamethrower in the M3. Instead, inside this building to force the Raketenwerfer out of the church. And Jesulin has gone scavenge. So, unfortunately, doesn't look like we're going to see an attempt by Jesulin to go with an extremely non-meta strategy this game.
Grenadiers back to full strength.
Command level capabilities ready for deployment. Supply half-track is in action. Standing by for setting of command posts.
Paul will be forced to retreat a couple times there in the middle. He's going with pretty standard 4 cons, 2 combat engineers trying to get flamethrowers out. He will soon, of course, be purchasing PTRSs, and his fuel control is excellent. This is a large part of why Oberkommando West struggles so much on this map. Flank engagements. Flank engagements are very difficult to even get to, let alone win. The mobility of the Soviet M3 is extremely powerful for maintaining a hold on fuel. Raketenwerfer connects right there. Nice Raketenwerfer shot. Nice Raketenwerfer placement. M3 will be forced back for repairs briefly, and the Kubelwagen continues to perform admirably.
Taking small arms fire! Field promotion! Taking effective fire! We need to displace! Ready for battle! Area fire! Hold the advance! Target that infantry! Ready!
Paul set up in green cover here, slowly applying pressure in this area, but he's not making a whole lot of progress and trying to get through. That being said, it may not matter that much. His map control is still excellent, and Jesulin can't find any opportunities to even go take the uncontested south, let alone take back control of his fuel point in the north. He finally manages to get a spare squad up there, slowly working on Paul's north munitions cutoff. Paul is struggling to get out of his base because of this one Kubelwagen that he still hasn't found an opportunity to destroy with that M3, surprisingly enough. He must be very leery of the threat of mines. If that's the case, he should probably field a minesweeper, though. Infiltration grenade toss to try and flush those conscripts from cover. Gets a little bit of light damage there, too, and while they're repositioning, those Jaegers get some nice snipes. So even without the grenades really connecting, our retreat is still forced. And this engagement may be won. If Jesulin can retake control of this cutoff, it'll connect him to this point as well. Help him get a little more resources coming in. He's gone 3 Volksgrenadiers, 2 Jaeger Light Infantry.
Under attack!
Scout car sticks around in that Raketenwerfer's arc of fire for too long and will get picked up. Very good chance of a wipe right here. Kind of a late retreat by Paul. I almost feel that he might be giving that squad up for dead. He makes the attempt, but a Kuba wagon will be firing on it. Volksgrenadiers are firing on it, and Jaeger Light Infantry are in the retreat path right here. And they might hit that mine. There it is. That mine finally goes off, and what a beautiful pickup, too. A full flamethrower squad. Of course, he's probably going to want to try and put a new mine down because a T-70 is on the way, and that's going to be a much more significant threat than an M3. He will have to manage that very carefully. He still has no Panzerschrecks, although he could afford one. He has just one Raketenwerfer, and that is his only protection against the T-70, so Paul is definitely making the right build decision here, capitalizing on his extremely good fuel control this game. It's still not as early as it could have been, though, because of not great cutoff control. Jesulin has definitely slowed his opponent's economy by constantly harassing this point, and his Jagdpanzer, because of his own lack of fuel, is going to be quite late. He still doesn't have the fuel for it, and that T-70 is going to have an extremely good window of opportunity to inflict serious harm on Jesulin. There's a sniper on the field here as well. T-70 will find an opportunity against the Kuba wagon. Nice placement of the Raketenwerfer, though that could not be better. I think that T-70 might get blocked. Oh, it phased! Oh, nice attempt at the block by Jesulin. I thought that was going to work for sure. Oh, it phased through. I thought that was going to be the most next level play I'd ever seen. I wish that had worked, just so that I could have caught that on camera. Good attempt, though. Good attempt. T-70, of course, with the Kuba wagon destroyed, and the Raketenwerfer forced to retreat is going to start wreaking havoc. It picks up a Jaeger Light Infantry squad up here. It picks up the Kuba wagon. It's already inflicted serious harm, and this is where Paul's control of the game will begin, and he's going to need to take and hold firm control of this game with that T-70 before the Jagdpanzer arrives, if he's going to have a chance here. Because he's gone Tank Hunter and will be relying exclusively on Soviet Tier 3. Even though he's against Oberkommando West after a certain point, he will very much struggle against the Jagdpanzer plus Ostwind combination, for example.
Grenadiers upgraded.
My mug's almost empty.
Battle promotion.
Territory taken. Push on. Back up to full force.
PTRS is thrown on pretty much every conscript here, literally every conscript, by Paul. His sniper forced to retreat. He's going to have to get that back onto the field. PTRSs will perform, of course, extremely well against Volksgrenadiers and Jaeger Light Infantry, as long as Paul tries to make at least a somewhat moderate effort to put them in cover. Double Raketenwerfer setup right here, making an extremely dangerous area for that T-70 to engage. We'll have to be very careful, and Jesulin similarly will have to be very careful not to be forced off the field. He does, of course, have a forward retreat point here, so retreats are not very expensive. As long as nothing too disastrous happens here, he should be able to hold the line. But if Paul just sits in green cover and pressures his forward retreat point, he may never break this containment, and he may never be able to get a fuel point back under control. Green cover conscript set up in the south. Jesulin has no spare squads that he can safely send to the south, because the T-70 would probably just wipe anything that he extended beyond this defensive line. He needs to try and pick up that T-70 before he'll be able to do map harassment in any way, shape, or form. The SWS is suiciding itself up here in the north. I'm not sure why. Possibly to create a green cover position right there. Possibly for later salvage opportunities. As salvage doctrine, of course, that wreckage will give him extra fuel and munitions if he can force Paul away and get in range to recover it. Or maybe he just wanted vision of the T-70 or to see around that church corner. I don't know. Since he obviously does not plan to tech beyond Tier 2, it doesn't cost him anything to do that. He's trying to get to... Actually, I thought he was trying to get to Jagdpanzer, but maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe he feels that since he's already gone 2 Raketenwerfers, 2 Panzerschrecks, his anti-tank capabilities are sufficient to deal with Soviet Tier 3. He is up against Tank Hunter tactics. So maybe he's just trying to stall for Ostwind to give him a more chunky weapon against PTRS cons. And the sniper. And it'll be good against the T-70. It'll actually be pretty effective against everything that Paul has on the field. So Ostwind would definitely not be a bad call, and he's getting very close to being able to field one. And this is actually very reminiscent. I don't know if you caught the game I cast recently of Panzer Grenadier and Greifen's build this patch, which is pretty much double Ostwind, double Raketen Warfare supported by Panzer Shreks against Guard Motor. I don't think I've seen it succeed. Against Tank Hunters, I think it definitely could. Maybe that's what Jesulin's going for here. Could be fun to see that build in effect from a different player, though. Jesulin's take on Panzer Grenadier and Greifen's build this patch. I attribute it to him. I don't know if he came up with it, if they both came up with it independently, or maybe they found each other in auto match. Who knows? Although Jesulin's actually going to get a third Raketen Warfare. He does have the manpower float to justify that purchase. He's going to have to try and find ways to engage cost effectively while he waits for his Ostwind to arrive. Clearly proving difficult, but with the forward retreat point, this is going to be a position that's very difficult to crack without indirect fire, and Paul didn't go guard motor, so he has no heavy mortar. But a sniper can still pick off models from range, PTRSs can still engage very well, destroy cover positions, pick up snipes on infantry, and Paul in general will be, I think, trading better than his opponent. Dodge some infiltration grenades right there. The building will collapse, and one squad of conscripts is forced to make an early retreat. Sturm Pioneers also have no choice but to retreat right there, and Jesulin is bleeding manpower heavily, but he had the float to be able to sustain this front line for a while, and here comes the Ostwind in addition to the third Raketen Warfare to try and turn this engagement back around and maybe finally give Jesulin some mobility and map harassment potential. Jaeger Lights coming dangerously close to getting wiped. Volksgrenadiers struggling to hold the line. All green cover positions being destroyed by PTRS fire, but the Ostwind will smash into the front lines here and try and force this retreat with a hard crush maneuver. Engine damaged. It will switch targets to those retreating squads. They're both quite clumped, but the burst is too slow to fire. Looks like that's all going to get away easily. We'll switch back to these targets over here, which are going down quickly, and it looks like Jesulin will be able to alleviate the pressure of this push significantly. Paul, spending a lot of manpower on this second sniper, is going to be a little slow to get this T-34 onto the field. He doesn't have any spare manpower float the way Jesulin did for that engagement, but
Orders complete. Command level capabilities ready for deployment.
once that arrives, obviously Jesulin will have to position his T-34 very carefully. Ostwind just located the T-70 quite out of position. It's going to try and pull into these conscripts, which with the threat of engine damage will prevent that Ostwind from chasing overly aggressively. It looks like Jesulin does not at this point want to suffer engine damage because he doesn't know when a T-34-76 might just pop up out of the fog. There's the T-34. I think he's about to take engine damage here. Oh, it penetrated, and he needs to try and pull back to safety. It's not going to get away, though. That T-34 is done, and Raketen Warfers are not set up to protect. One shot connects. Two shots connect, but it's going to get away, and that T-34 takes out the Ostwind. Nothing exchanged. The loss of that Ostwind, and it does, by the way, look like Jesulin wanted to go double Ostwind because he's fielding a second one now. Unfortunately, his first one just died. Gonna have to be a little more careful with this one. It's gonna be very important that he not fall any further behind in the fuel game because he's up against Soviet Tier 3. He gets a little bit of wriggle room. He gets a free pass, sort of. Unfortunate snipe right there, however, is making a bad situation worse. Another Volksgrenadier squad just got wiped. That might actually, that's I think the first wipe of the game against Jesulin. His only full unit losses now are a Volksgrenadier squad and at Ostwind. Paul, on the other hand, has lost only an M3. and a flamethrower squad. So actually, minor losses for Paul. Not nearly as bad as what Jesulin has lost, but at least he's lost something. Game is certainly not over by any means, but I think that the remainder of this game may hinge on the survival of this Ostwind. And with a T-34 available on its flank, plus a T-70 up there, plus who knows what might come out of the Soviet base anytime, there's a lot of pressure on that Ostwind to... oh, Price just told me that a Jaeger squad also got wiped. That's true, I missed that. So, yeah, quite a few losses for Jesulin. There's a lot of pressure on this Ostwind to perform very well. Pick up wipes and trade and shut down Paul's manpower and try and lower his pop cap a little bit. Jesulin 20 pop cap behind really needs to... Jeez, he's getting burst so hard just by PTRSs. He needs to pull out of the base, and he obviously wants that T-34 to just barrel through these Raketenwerfers, but Paul's not taking the bait, either without vision or maybe even saw their movements somehow. He wasn't...
Enemy flanking us!
wasn't about to dive his T-34s into that Raketenwerfer wall, so the Ostwind was unsuccessful in baiting those T-34s fourth. And Jesulin will be forced back for repairs and to rethink what he's going to do. He does have clock control, though. Fine, for pretty much the whole game, actually. He's got a 100 VP lead. He has somehow managed to sneak a squad down south to get that captured. Ostwind is engaging in the middle, and that wipe! That pickup! I think that's the first squad that Paul has lost. Check really fast. Don't want to miss any of the action. Yes, only conscript squad he's lost this game. Gets picked up in the middle thanks to some nice hits by the Ostwind right there. Raketenwerfer hits that T-70 and it will be forced back to safety. Volksgrenadiers reinforcing here on the battle group headquarters. Raketenwerfer needs to fire on that T-34. Will get a shot off and that's forced back. Ooh, Ostwind picks up another wipe right there. That's two conscript squads wiped, and the losses for Paul now are starting to stack up. There's engine damage. Ostwind trying to pull back to safety is going to simply continue firing, and the T-34 is destroyed by Raketenwerfer fire right there. And Jesulin will hold the line. Looks like he's going to take this engagement. Snipers firing this entire time, trying to pick up wipes. Haven't done that much. This one has 17 kills. This one has 5, so... 22 kills between two snipers is not much on Volksgrenadiers. They have not really traded cost effectively. But it's not, this game's not even close to over by any means. Jesulin has a lot of work to do to work this comeback. He has traded quite well by destroying a T-34 there. He'll probably try and salvage that wreck. Try and recover from the loss of his Ostwind earlier. Paul actually has a very significant fuel lead. But of course his manpower is an entirely another situation. The decision to go with 2 snipers and now a transition to tier 2 is weakening his army significantly. And we were just talking about pop cap. How Paul had a 20 pop cap lead. He took so many losses during that Jesulin is now ahead of him by 5. Just by being way behind right before that engagement. So that engagement probably could not have gone much better for Jesulin right there. And he will salvage the T-34 wreck, bolster his economy a little bit. He now has 200 munitions in the bank. But we may be witnessing the slow death of tank hunter tactics here. But I also think that Paul's making the right call with the transition to tier 2. Obviously, 3 Raketenwerfers can't do anything against a Soviet field gun. Once that's out and on the field, be a very effective weapon against the Ostwind that the Raketenwerfers can't punish.
The enemy is encroaching on our territory.
But Jesulin's usage of his Ostwind has forced Paul into that manpower expenditure.
Anti-tank gun is ready for action. They're attacking us. Our territory is falling into enemy hands. Crew, get ready.
Wow, that Ostwind has Vet 2 already. I'm surprised by that.
Target captured.
I think there's a lot of potential for that Ostwind to vet up a lot higher than that this game, because this game's not even close to over.
Infantry attacking in force.
Not while Paul's fuel reserves are that healthy.
3.77864.
Ostwind pokes the snipers and they will retreat, but successful bait into this field gun. Shot does not connect. And there's the second Ostwind, so we are going to see just double Ostwind. Because against tank hunter tactics, it just makes so much sense. The biggest threat to Oberkommando West is infantry, really. Flamethrower spam, PTRS spam, whatever it is. Plane doesn't hit anything. Fragmentation bombs dropped right there. Or anti-tank bomb strike, sorry. Doesn't really hit anything either. It will force Jesulin, however, to retreat. And now that the patch notes are out, finally, we are all, of course, super excited that plane crash damage has been heavily reduced. And AoE. I was hoping that it was going to be removed entirely or made so insignificant that it couldn't possibly impact a game. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Plane crashes are still going to have the potential to wipe full infantry squads with a direct hit, for example, but their impact will be much less devastating. So at least Relic took a step in the right direction. I think we can all appreciate that coming change.
Squad numbers back at full. Watch your line of sight. Squad, ready to move. Target secure. Fire! Keep your heads down and be ready to move.
One squad of conscripts there will be forced to retreat.
Ready for deployment.
Infiltration grenades into the house to try and force Paul from the structure here. No reaction by him, possibly intentionally. The structure did have full health. Takes heavy damage though, and the engagement is lost. He will be forced to retreat. Here in the north, T-70 gets caught by a Rakettenwerfer. It's making a late reaction. Why won't it move? There it goes. Oh man, gun destroyed crit. Very lucky. Meanwhile, the Ostwind working on the field gun, circle strafing it to death. T-34 late to the engagement. Here comes another block by Jesulin. This one will actually work. SWS will prevent that T-34 from chasing these Ostwinds, while Rakettenwerfers position themselves for that T-34's push. SWS did what the Kuba wagon could not. T-34 will force a retreat from those combat engineers. Ostwind will force a retreat. Trying to finish off the T-70. Meanwhile, the T-34. There is a mine up here. I think he might be trying to pull that Ostwind over this mine with its rear armor exposed. It may be destroyed by Ostwind fire. I don't know if Jesulin's going to chase, though, and obviously Paul wants Jesulin to hit that mine, which I think he's going to right here. There he goes! And he had a stun mine as well. Engine damaged on the Ostwind, plus the crew shock is going to put it in serious danger. T-34 circling around to try and finish the job, and it will do so. There's the Ostwind picked up. Nice maneuvering by Paul to pull Jesulin over that mine. Ostwind engaging against these two snipers. Gets a nice burst off on them, and they will be forced to retreat again. 2 Rakettenwerfers cleared during this engagement. 1 Ostwind destroyed. T-70 also destroyed. And lots of losses on both sides, but I think that things are trending in Jesulin's favor. He is using Jägerlights to capture the entire map during this series of engagements. And Paul is really struggling to keep up, but if he could just destroy that Ostwind, it would go a long way. Unfortunately, AT grenade does not penetrate, so the AT gun will not be able to get shots off. But Paul will at least succeed in pulling it closer to his base. Jesulin will drop scavenge artillery right here, however, to force a full retreat from Paul. And Jesulin will content himself with destroying the gun, although I think he could salvage it. But he would rather probably repair with that Stern Pioneer squad than expose them to, well, his own artillery fire, for one thing. And of course the threat of whatever might be coming out of the base. Ostwind looks like it will be successful in destroying that, but a T-34 is on its way. Rakettenwerfer immediately retreats upon being recovered. Jesulin's decision to retreat that Rakettenwerfer may put that Ostwind in serious danger. 1 Rakettenwerfer set up to try and protect, and here's the bait. And Paul will disengage, expecting that he's about to drive straight into mines. And Rakettenwerfer's another thing. He's probably making the right call and will rotate north to try and pull some counter-harassment duty on these Volksgrenadiers, and at some point he needs to send something somewhere to capture territory. At some point he has to send something somewhere. Because he needs control of the south. He needs control of the south, he needs control of the north, he needs to start working the flanks. Snipers get volley off on those Volksgrenadiers, I think. Reduced to only 2 men remaining. They will be forced to retreat right there through PTRS Blob, and I think we might see a pickup by Paul here. There they go. Nicely played. Jesulin overextended himself just a little too hard trying to get territory in the north, and while he did briefly set up a triple cap, I don't know if it was worth the loss of a Panzerschreck squad. That being said, he does have a little bit of manpower float, and he will be able to replace his lost Ostwind now. And here it comes. Back up to 2 Ostwinds.
Squad, shut it.
Supply hub getter is ready for orders.
Oh, Vet 2 Rakettenwerfer cleared though.
Just a gun crew.
That is a painful loss. Putting out only 1 Rakettenwerfer right now. 1 Rakettenwerfer, 2 Shreks is not enough to contend with 3 T-34s. These losses are really starting to stack up in a painful way for Jesulin, and that's probably going to cost him in map control, which means that this game still is not over despite Paul's huge victory point deficit.
We have fallen to 100 points. Do not let this trend continue.
Good and ready. Crew, get ready.
Under fire! Enemy movement! On the flank!
Ostwind going to work on these conscripts, doing pretty good damage. 1 squad forced to retreat. T-34 peaks. Shot does not connect. A little bit of light chasing while Jesulin's anti-tank position here is weak. I think Paul is starting to get antsy. I think he wants to make a big push. He's probably waiting for the right moment though. He's got 1 T-34 here, 1 T-34 there. This one about to move up over on this flank. If he executes a huge push with all 3 of those, I truly do not think Jesulin can stop it. And it looks like he's tempted. He's tempted by the prospect. I think he should go in. I think he should go in hard. I don't know. It's so hard to judge. Even in observer mode, I'm struggling to judge if that's an optimal engagement. Certainly, it must be hard for Paul to know for sure if that's a good idea. A T-gun is moving up into position. T-34 is positioned on 2 different flanks. Conscripts retake control of the fuel, but clock control is still Jesulin's, and with only 75 points remaining, the pressure is on Paul to make something happen here.
You are showing weakness. We are down to 75 points.
If he does make a full-on frontal assault, he'll be diving a Rakettenwerfer, 2 Panzerschrecks, and if he waits for the second Rakettenwerfer to get here, which he has, the engagement may be lost before it begins. He probably had to fully commit when he had the chance. So rather than making a huge push, it looks like we're going to see him just try and grab the VP with the support of his T-34s. Field gun moving up, does get a shot off on that Ostwind. It will be forced to pull back to safety. T-34s poke the... Alright, we might be looking at a full commitment by Paul here. He's going to go hard. He detects that his opponent is weak. Rakettenwerfer cleared, building destroyed, and the Volksgrenadier squad inside is forced out. Both Panzerschrecks still here. There's the Ostwind out of control. No T-34s destroyed yet. Scavenger artillery dropped in the midst of the engagement will break up infantry formations in the back and force a retreat from 1 sniper and kill the other. But both Ostwinds have been destroyed in exchange for 1 T-34 right here. Both Rakettenwerfers cleared, and that I think was a huge win for Paul. May give him the ability to take and hold the center VP. There goes that squad being forced to retreat. 1 squad of PTRS conscripts left in the middle, and the SWS is just suiciding itself into the center point. Not sure what kind of opportunities Jesulin was looking for that time, but with the AT gun and PTRS is right there, they simply get picked up. Jesulin will salvage 3 wrecks right here, which is going to give him 15 fuel with only 12 coming in. That's very significant. That's going to help him get fresh Ostwinds on the field quite a lot. But at this point, with Paul up to 3 T-34s, we may see a transition into Jagdpanzer. Might make more sense than Rakettenwerfers, which he's also salvaging, by the way, rather than crewing. So his decision to do that makes me think we might be looking at a Jagdpanzer in the very near future. But of course, he does need to get the 135 fuel together, which is not going to be easy, even after salvaging all of those wrecks and weapons. because, of course, Paul has retaken control of both fuel flanks.
Taking anti-personnel fire! Enemy forces are neutralizing a sector.
Here comes the third T-34. If Paul makes an attempt to overwhelm his opponent now, the Ostwinds are already dead. There's only 2 Rakettenwerfers, 2 Shreks here against 3 T-34s with the threat of crush. We might be looking at a decisive engagement. Here comes what could be the final push. Diving frontally over that Rakettenwerfer. Going in for crush maneuvers, plus anti-tank bomb strike being dropped on the battle group headquarters. Jesulin will be forced to make a full retreat. In fact, he doesn't even wait for the bomb strike to arrive because he knows the battle group is lost, and if the battle group is lost, the game is lost. Jesulin, unfortunately, despite a brief glimmer of hope, was not able to take Game 1 as Oberkommando West, even as Scavenge Doctrine on Simoski. Paul will take it with a 65 VP Allied victory, which, in theory, should be extremely beatable by Jesulin in Game 2.